Continuing with structure, the hair root plexus. As I mentioned, that involves innervation of the hair follicle. Zoomed in picture here to show the innervation, the nerve endings enveloping the hair follicle, and that gives us the ability to feel in a way by deflection of the hair. And then some animals really use that to an extreme, like the whiskers on a cat, that are for touch sensation. Okay, let's look at glands in the skin. Exocrine glands, that means they have ducts. So there are sebaceous glands associated with the hair follicle for the most part, and that's the only ones that you need to know. But there are some that also just secrete their material onto the surface of the skin. And then sweat glands, typical watery sweat glands. But there's also apocrine sweat glands that secrete their material into the hair follicle. We'll talk about those. And then special apocrine glands, which are the ceruminous glands producing earwax in the ear, and the mammary glands producing mother's milk. So the sebaceous or oil glands, they are holocrine glands. And they empty their material in the hair follicles. This is the only one I need you to know. And that's a type of secretion where the entire cell is lost, ruptured, and along with the secretory vesicles and their material into the hair follicles. The sebum, or the oily secretion, helps lubricate the hair and the skin, and even has an antibacterial function. The sweat or sudoriferous glands. There are apocrine sweat glands that are associated with the hair follicles of the armpits, the nipples, and the groin. So these produce a oily secretion and include hormones. So hormones are produced as well, and it's potentially odorous after a long day, for example. But initially, the secretions really do not have an unpleasant odor initially. They become active at puberty, these apocrine sweat glands, and they are known to function in communication between individuals in terms of even sexual attractiveness. Now the sweat glands, or the sudoriferous glands, the eccrine or merocrine sweat glands, these are the ones that produce the watery sweat onto your skin via the long ducts. And they're widely distributed throughout the body and the palms of your hands and soles of your feet, and mostly water. Some salts, your sweat is salty, and this is involved mostly for production of sweat for thermal regulation, which is called sensible perspiration, that type of sweat for thermal regulation. But there's also some excretion function of the eccrine or merocrine sweat glands, where metabolic wastes and some electrolytes are lost. Again, sweat is somewhat salty. So salts are electrolytes. And some protection as well. There's some antibacterial action or ability or function of this type of sweat. Okay, mammary glands are modified sweat glands, and ceruminous glands in the ears producing earwax are modified sweat glands as well, producing serum or earwax, a waxy secretion in the ear canal. It can be kind of crumbly or kind of moist and sticky depending on your genetics. And oh yeah, not the safest way to remove your earwax, guys. Okay, let's move to the nails. They are primarily made up of the protein keratin, just like the epidermal cells, except the protein is laid down in a very linear fashion that gives the nails a fair amount of strength and rigidity. They grow from the nail root, which is epithelial tissue in origin, so kind of like a hair follicle in a way. There's an invagination into the dermis, and the hair root is at the base of the hair. The basal stem cells there produce the cells of the nail, and the cells gradually move out, move out, move out, eventually exposing the nail and the free edge of the nail. So the cuticle, or eponychium, is also epidermal in tissue, and that's right here. That's the part that can crack somewhat, or you go to the salon and they'll trim it, or you can maybe just chew it off. Not a good idea. The lunula is that kind of white semicircle at the base of the nail body. And then the nail body is the portion of the nail that's in contact with the skin. And then the free edge is the edge that grows free from the skin, and that's the edge that you trim off or bite off. And if you know your Olympic history, this is Florence Griffith Joyner, Flojo, and she had very long nails, and she would compete and won a gold medal, more than one actually, with these very long nails. So check up your Olympic track and field history. Flojo was a sensation, wow, I think in the mid-'80s. And that's it for this chapter.